Welcome to another episode of Spirits in the Material World. I'm your host, Sean Blankenship, coming to you live from Parace's studio, a pretty fancy place here, Northwest Mississippi. And you're in for a big treat today. I've got a special guest here who's going to introduce him here in a minute. And we're going to sit here as long as it takes. But we're going to hear some history. We're going to hear some stories about one of the original Navy SEALs. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Ronnie Hodges. Ronnie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, you not as much as I am. I have been looking forward to this day for probably a month or so now. And before we get kind of too far going down the road, I would love to hear a little bit about you, your background. Why don't you introduce yourself to the folks?
Okay, I'm Ronnie Hodges. I'm retired. I'm 75 years old. I got into the Navy when I actually got drafted. And, you know, when you get drafted, you have 30 days to enlist in anything you want to. So me and a buddy of mine were messing around one day, and I said, man, I'm gonna enlist. And so I went down and joined the Marine Corps and went to California and got to California and was going through basic. And back then, you know, no one knew what the SEALs were. I mean, it was a real secretive group.
Is it new, right?
Oh, yeah. And these SEALs came through and they were asking, was anybody interested? And he explained what the SEALs were. And I decided, I knew I was going to Vietnam because I had volunteered with the Marine Corps to go and just to get it over with. So we had to go take some tests. You had to swim and run and I passed all that. So then they transferred me into the Navy and I went to Great Lakes, Illinois for Navy boot camp. And after that, I went back to San Diego to start BUDS training. And then when I started BUDS training I think the fourth day, I went, I done messed up. This ain't good. And so I went through BUDS, and let me tell you, I never dreamed it'd be as tough as it was. It's you know, every morning they call it muster, which is roll call. You stand in ranks and they ask you three questions. Do you want to see the chaplain? Do you need to go to sick bay? You want to ring the bell. If you ring the bell, you're gone. No questions asked, and you go back to the fleet. And there was a couple of times during training, if I could have got to that bell, I would have rung it. I mean, it was some tough stuff.
Right out of the gate, I've already got like a whole bunch of questions. So let's go. So you said San Diego,
yeah.
And is that Camp Pendleton?
That's Marine Corps.
Marine, okay.
But I was BUDS is over at North Island.
North Island.
Yeah, it's a Naval Air Station and stuff that.
I know what you're talking about now.
You know, and when you think of the SEALs was actually brought about by President Kennedy in 1962 when the idea came about. And it took him a couple of years. They officially kicked off in 64. And the thing about the SEALs were you were at the beck and call of the president. That it back then, I don't know what it is now, but at any given time, only 50% of the SEALs could be out of the country. The rest are kept stateside in case the president needed them. But it was real hush hush. I mean, we couldn't wear our Trident. We call it the Budweiser. If you look at the Trident, it looks like the Budweiser label, and we used to call it the Budweiser. But so that when I got through BUDS, you know, you couldn't wait to get somewhere to see if this stuff really works. And
so BUDS, is that an acronym or what is BUDS?
Basic underwater demolitions. is what it stands for. And depending at the time, the war was pretty hot, so they pushed us through pretty quick.
And what year are we talking about right now?
Late '69.
Okay.
To give you some statistics, when I started Buds, there was 140 of us, and out of the 140, 120 of us, and out of the 120, 40 of us graduated. And out of the 40 that graduated, we all went to Vietnam. And out of the original 40, only 8 of us come home alive. And out of the 8, everybody had been wounded at least once. And I think my team, we had won everything but the Congressional Medal of Honor, someone in my unit. I mean, from the Navy Cross all the way down, that we were very, very active.
Wow. So,
and we worked a lot for the CIA and the Air Force. And we used to call them hops and pops, that they would find like a North Vietnamese high-ranking officer, like a general or major, and the order always was extract him if you can. If you can't, let him meet God. And of course, we wasn't set up to take prisoners, and we never brought nobody back. So that's where the hop and pop. We jump in, set up, get our target, and then neutralizing.
Okay. All right.
So
we're going to get back to that. So you enlisted with the Marines. You had a moment to be either introduced or you met some SEALs. You somehow thought that would be a good idea.
Well, I figured if I was going to, after listening to their pep talk, I knew I was going to go to Vietnam, and I wanted to be the best trained, best equipped that there was.
Right.
I figured my survival rate might be better.
Good sense.
But that really depends on where you're at and what you're doing. We did pretty much anything that nobody else wanted to do. That spent a lot of time. I've gone out in the field, me and my swim buddy, and set up and do a lot of recon for the Air Force, the B-52s. And what we would do, we'd climb a tree and sit and observe. And then back then, to show you how different things are now, we could only radio out twice a day. The satellite had to be in position. So we would radio out potential targets and the coordinates, and then the B-52s would, if they'd elected to do it, they would come in and bomb that area, and then we'd go in and see how much damage was done, or if we needed to do it again, was the objective worth it. So, and I've spent, gosh, I think the longest was 3 weeks and never see another round die. That I'm an American.
Right.
And then they'll tell you on this date, be at this hill at this time, and we'll extract you. Well, I was always a day early. You wasn't going to miss that. No, I wasn't going to walk. So me and my swim buddy we were always a little early. So it was, and the crazy thing about it, I was 22 years old.
Wow.
And, I look back now and, you really can't believe some of the things we did. I remember one time we were going on a mission and we was in the back of a C-130, and me and my swim buddy, my whole team, we were sitting there, and I looked over at my swim buddy, and we really didn't know where we were going. They hadn't told us yet. And I remember my swim buddy looked at me and goes, "Red." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "We're going to die." I said, "That's not my objective." But there was some scary moments. My team was the first ground assault troops to go to Cambodia, it was, the Ho Chi Minh Trail run right along there. And we were trying to neutralize it. They were bringing a lot of supplies and stuff through there. So the Marines and Army were going to have a big push. So they sent teams like mine in early to try and locate everybody and just see what was there and where it was at, and kind of clear a path for the main force when they came through. I was there, I think, 14 days ahead of the big operation. I can't remember the name of the operation, but that was probably some of the toughest I was in. I mean, we had our boss was briefing us. He didn't tell us where we were going, but he was briefing us. And he turned, and he was a commander, and he turned and says, "God, I wish I was going." He says, he had that stick and he was pointing at the map, and he goes, "This is a target-rich environment."
Wow, I can imagine.
I served with a guy, Richard Marsenko. He's dead now. Probably the meanest man I ever met in my life. I mean, he loved it. Absolute. Well, he's the one that formed SEAL Team 6. And there's not, back then, there wasn't six teams.
How many teams were there back then?
Probably three or four.
And how many on a team?
It would vary.
Okay.
Back then, it was never more than 8, usually 6. But now, golly, they got platoons of them. I mean, it's a whole different ball game. And of course, they got all the neat toys now. I mean, we didn't have that much stuff. We had explosives and stuff like that, but nothing.
Well, the communications in general are completely different.
Oh yeah. I mean, our communication just sucked. I mean, satellites had to be in position.
Right.
So it was, but I know we were up there for 14 days, and I don't know, about halfway through when we jumped in, target rich wasn't the word. I think we jumped right in the middle of a hornet's nest, and they used to give us ratios. Why, I don't know. I can remember them. They would say, "Well, your mission is this and this and this," and it's about 30-1, enemy to you. But
30-1,
huh?
30-1,
yeah. And so target rich, and like Marsenko said one time, I wished I was going. He says, if you can pull a trigger, you can hit something. But that wasn't really our purpose. We were strictly slip in, slip out. We wasn't set up for a big firefight, hit and run, and we do a lot of damage that way.
Right. What part of going through BUD/S do you remember being the part that made you want to ring the bell sometimes?
I guess when they were drown proofing us.
Oh, I can imagine.
There was a place called Point Lomas, who's notorious for riptides. Firefighting school.
Okay.
Didn't like that.
I think both of those are pretty rational reasons not to like. I mean,
well, there's probably 100 reasons not to like it. I mean, you gotta dig deep to hang in there. That they used to call us. You'd be out on the beach. We did a 5-mile run every morning, and if we wasn't running fast enough, or he didn't think we were doing right, he'd stop and he'd tell us. He says, I don't have your full attention this morning. So he'd make us go get in the ocean, and this was in March, and it's cold as hell, and get us good and wet. Then we'd come back on the beach and roll in the sand. That's called a sugar cookie. And you become a sugar cookie, and you had all that sand and grit on you all day long. And then when you really screwed up, he says, "Well, I don't have your attention. Get in the ocean." So we'd go sit in the ocean and lock arms. And I mean, my jaws would chatter so bad, my jaws would hurt. And do I have your attention now? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You could barely say yes.
Yeah. And you think those instructors some of them are pretty sadistic. I mean,
that's their job, right?
Oh yeah. And the whole premise is that to weed out the ones that mentally couldn't. Physically, most everybody can, but it's the mental part that you got to have the grit.
Got to have the grit.
But I can't think of no one who at some point during buds didn't say, I'm out of here. I've had enough.
Right.
But then the next day comes and I'm going to give it one more shot.
And you guys try to help each other get through that mental aspect of it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you see some of the, let's say some of the shows or movies over the years that depict SEALs and the training, do you find most of it pretty accurate? Has it evolved?
Yeah. The thing about it, what shocks me is they had a policy called sign in, sign out. When you sign in, what I see stays here. And when I leave, it still stays here. So, for years, I was in the Navy, and then I'm sitting there one day watching TV and they were showing buds training. And I was shocked. I can remember being in San Diego. I went to a bar, going to meet some buddies there later. And I was in uniform, and this guy sits down, and we just had a class on this like 2 days before. And this guy sat down next to me, and he goes, "You're in the Navy." I went, "Yeah." And he goes, and I think I had the nuclear weapon insignia on my shoulder. I can't remember. But anyway, he goes, "You stationed over at North Island?" I went, "Yeah." And he goes, what's that thing there? Don't that stand for nuclear weapons? I said, "Man, I don't know what it stands. They say sew it on, I sew it on." But he kept asking me these questions. So he said, "Well, is there any nukes over there?" I said, "Man, I don't know what they got over there. I know they got me." And he kept asking these questions. So I said, "Tell you what, give me your name and your phone number, and I'll set you up a tour if they'll let you on." That's what they told us to do. And then he pulled out his badge, and he was with Navy security. And he said, "Man, you answered all the questions right."
See, it's testing
you. I said, "And you're an asshole." Because all I had to do was say, "Yeah, there's weapons over there. I'm gone."
One.
Because all SEALs have I think it was a top secret clearance. I'm sure it was. Like me, I was trained to be an EOD, an explosive ordnance. I played with the bombs, anything from a 38 caliber up to a thermonuclear warhead. So, they say the wrong thing to the wrong guy, and you can be in a lot of trouble.
I can imagine, right?
So,
you go through buds. You were one of the 40.
Yep.
And there must have been some type of graduation, or is it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Or was it here we go?
Yeah, it wasn't no big to do.
Okay.
I remember. All I remember about graduation was they called it tacking it on. You got these little studs on your insignia, and you put the little clip. You put it on, put the clips on. Well, they would take the clips off, and you'd hold the insignia here, and each instructor would walk by and hit it with their fist. It's called tacking on. I mean, you'd be a bloody mess.
Yeah,
of course, they don't do that no more. That they're not allowed to, and get caught. So,
but I guess that would be a one way, right? To let you know, you did it.
You did it.
So what happened next?
Well, then I was assigned to an aircraft carrier. My team was, and we rode the aircraft carrier to the Philippines, where we went through what they call staging. It's where you practice being in the jungle and the environment. And then the carrier went what they call online in the Gulf of Tonkin. And then we were flown off the carrier to Da Nang. I worked out of Da Nang and did whatever that needed to be done. It depended on, the mission you drew. But you stayed busy. I know my team had, gosh, I'm trying to remember. The CNO, Chief of Naval Operations, was Admiral Zumwalt. I think he's dead now too, but they decommissioned my team and gave us some options. We could stay in, re-up, or get out. Well, about that time, I'd had enough. And I remember, and Admiral Zumwalt interviewed each one of us personally. And he asked, he said, Hodges, what do you want to do? And he told me what my options were. And I said, I'll take the out. And I said, I can leave this afternoon. And he goes, well, I can't get you out that quick, but yeah, we'll let you go. But then you stay on a ready reserve list for years. I know during the first Gulf War, I actually got a letter, and I had to go take a physical to see if I was healthy enough in case they needed me to recall me.
We're talking what? That's like 89, 90?
Yeah.
1990?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I was in my 40s then.
Your 40s. Okay.
Yeah.
So how long were you? So you're based out of Da Nang.
Yeah.
How long was it? Do they call it a tour? One tour, two tours?
They call it a tour. And our tours were 6 months at a time. And I did 2. I was actually in Vietnam 11 months.
11 months. Okay.
So, and then got rotated home.
Was that towards the end of the war?
Yeah, it was. I got there right after the Tet Offensive.
Okay.
And the war was still hot, but it was kind of winding down. I think the president was Nixon, and he was in the negotiations but we were just as active as day one.
Right.
So
now I would imagine this is probably, there's things that you can't talk. Are you able to talk about any of the missions?
Let me think. I can't recall none off the top of my head that, the one that stands out, and of course I'm not giving away nothing. We went on a hop and pop, and there was I think he was like a colonel or a major that they wanted to get their hands on, and we jumped in, set up on him. Took us about 3 days to get everything in line. And so finally one morning about, I guess it was 2:00 in the morning, he walks out, and the moon was real bright. I remember that. And you could see the brass on his shoulder. So we knew he was our guy. And the sniper next to me was setting up on him. And we told him, take him. He goes, no, just a minute. Wait a minute. And this little Vietnamese girl, she couldn't have been 17, 18 years. And he was standing there, and they smoked their cigarettes, funny looking. And he was standing there smoking a cigarette, taking a leak. And then the guy popped him. And he goes, what better way to go with you in your hand?
That's what the wait a minute was.
Yeah. And I remember looking, and it looked like a watermelon explosion. I mean, pow. And then all hell breaks loose. We used to call it recon by fire. The would just start running and shooting at everything. Of course, we would pull back, drop and camouflage, and let them run by us, and try to make our way to, there's a saying in the SEALs, always keep the water to your back. So we're trying to get to this river, and if we get in the river, they ain't coming after us. That's one particular mission. And then there were several like that.
Do you? Couple of things I was thinking along the way here. Jumping out of a plane
is a bitch.
So you obviously that was part of training.
Oh yeah,
part of Buzz. Like, what was it like the first time?
Scary as hell. Yeah. I remember our first, call it your cherry jump. that you jump with a static line. And they flew over the field, and the light came on, and the jump master, go. He had to come back, circle back around.
Nobody went.
Yeah, a couple of them went, and I was going, I don't know about this. And it takes a lot. And then you graduate to where you're doing the skydiving.
Okay.
Where you jump out the back, free fall.
Right.
And you can depending on how you position your body, I mean, you can get up to speeds to 120 miles an hour. And the thing about it, the reason we did that was the North Vietnamese radar could track the aircraft, but it wasn't sophisticated enough to track a jumper. So we would jump, and we may be 50 miles from the LZ, and then you glide and
to where you're supposed to be.
Right. And then you deploy.
Landing zone, LZ.
Yeah, LZ. And they used to always kid me that they didn't worry about nothing. They said, if there's a mud puddle or a tree, don't worry, Red to get it. I always ended up in a tree or in the water or, so I didn't like none of them. And most of them were night jumps. And I did about, I don't know, 45 or 50 jumps.
I was about to ask how many.
Yeah.
And most of them at night.
Yeah. Yeah. And none of them to me were easy.
Right.
I didn't like none of them. And my swim buddy was worse than me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So the two of you together really weren't.
Yeah. No, we wasn't in the
And
jumping.
you're wearing gear.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's called your rump sack. And it could, depending on your mission, depending on how much it weighed, how long you're going to be out, how much ammo you need, with me, how much explosives they wanted me to carry. And then your rations.
Yeah.
So it was like when we were in Cambodia, we ran out of ammunition. Well, we were down. We used to laugh and say we were down to throwing rocks at them. We were down to our personal weapons, really. And the Air Force tried to drop supplies into us. I think it was 2 or 3 times. Well, the got it the first couple. And then the last one we finally
were able to get a hold of,
because we didn't have enough ammunition to fight them off. I remember the last one. They come in these big old 6 or 8 foot canisters, fiberglass canisters, and me and my swim buddy it was our turn to go try and get one. And I remember we run out and we stripped down took all of our gear off so we could run, and we ran out there and they were shooting all around us. And we grabbed it up and we were running back. I guess the thing weighed 100 pounds or better. And I remember my swim buddy got hit in the heel of his boot. Didn't break the skin or nothing, but he was a funny guy. He was from West Union, West Virginia, country as they come. And of course, when it hit him, it flipped him in the air, and he was screaming, I'm hit. I said, you better get your ass up and come home. I'm leaving you. So,
wow.
There was some.
And it was full of ammunition, or maybe even rations or whatever.
Some rations. We were more interested in ammunition.
In the ammo.
Yeah. They there were a couple of times like that, but that was probably one of the toughest that I can recall. Again, no mission was easy. I remember the first operation I went on. We were working with the 5th Marines, me and my swim buddy. They had kind of split us up, and we were going out, and this was my first combat mission. And we're walking down this trail, and we got a sniper started firing on us. And you watch the movies, and then all of a sudden, this is for real. That it really got to me. I remember a guy about 2 or 3 guys ahead of me in the column got hit in the shoulder, And he dropped to his knees and he turned and he was holding his shoulder and he was screaming, "Don't kill him. Don't kill him. I want that son of a bitch." Of course, he was no longer with us. I mean,
Right.
we did him, but we had one guy, we called him Hoss. He was from Nashville. I think he was like 6'6", had a size 15 shoe, huge guy. It big old hands, and he was our linguist. And
Of all things.
yeah, and he didn't like the Vietnamese. And I remember, I don't know if I should be saying this, but when we would capture somebody, I mean, their days are numbered. I mean, minutes. And we'd get what we could out of them, and Hoss would interrogate them. But one of the terriblest things I guess I saw was he took a guy's hand and put it up against a tree, and he had this big old Bowie knife, and he cut his fingers off and told him, the next thing I hear from you better be from the day you were dropped from mama up till now, or I'll start at your ears and go to your toes. You couldn't shut him up.
He spilled the beans.
Oh, yeah. And then your team leader would, all right, let's move out. We got all we need. And he would call somebody's name out and you'd whack him.
And that was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
And you know,
did you ever get used to that? I mean,
no. I remember after a firefight one time, we were going through the bodies, you know, you're looking for papers and stuff. And I remember opening this guy's jumper and I pulled out and he had a little folder like thing. And I was going through it. There was a picture of his wife and kids. And, you know, it's really a moving moment because, you know, you're looking at him and you're going, I don't know this guy from Adam. And I didn't hate him until he started shooting at me. And you're thinking by just the grace of God, you know, he's not going through my stuff. And it's really moving, you know, to anybody that says that they enjoyed it are psychos. I mean, it plays on and it did me for years and years. It has a way of getting to you. I remember I don't know, I guess it must have been 40 and started having flashbacks and nightmares and it was hurting my marriage. I mean, me and my wife wasn't getting along. So I decided one day that if I was going to stay married, which I wanted to, I had kids and I needed help. So I went to a psychologist there in Germantown, great guy. And I saw him every day. I mean, every Monday for 2 years. And he kind of helped me get through it. And it really worked wonders for me.
Good.
That the hardest thing to remember is that and the statistics were in the Korean World War II in Korea, the average combat soldier saw combat every 4 days on an average. In Vietnam, the combat soldier saw combat every day.
Mm.
And then when you come home, Korea and World War II, it took them 2 to 3 weeks to get home. So you had a little grieving period and you know, you had time to get over it. Man, when they sent me home 18 hours later, I was landing in San Francisco. And you know, 18 hours ago, I was living off adrenaline. And you know, I had a lot of problems. We had an old saying in the SEALs, and they still do, you don't intimidate me, you piss me off. And that's not good. I mean, I could tell you some terrible stories my first year out that I stayed in trouble. Yeah. Well, hell, I stayed in trouble as a SEAL, and the only thing that saved me was my combat record. I remember a Navy captain, got court-martialed, they call it a captain's bass. And he says, Hodges, you're one hell of a soldier. He said, I'd go into combat anywhere, anytime with you. He says, but you don't know what to do with your free time. And because we'd go on R&R somewhere, and like in Japan, you had these bars, and you go to a bar, and the Army's in this bar, so you're not welcome, or the Marines are in this bar, and you damn sure ain't welcome. And those are the bars we'd go in, and always end up in a fight, trouble. And it's like a Navy captain said, well, hell, that's what we train them for. And he says, it ain't like we can flip a switch. And he was a good guy. His name was Captain Jack Christensen, great guy. But he put me in jail a couple of times. I was on R&R in the Philippines. I don't remember what I'd done, but anyway, I had to clean some magazines before I could go on liberty into town. So I cleaned the magazine. It had 20 millimeter cans in it. You dust them and you mop, and then it was stacked about 6 or 7 feet high. And so I knew he was going to check the top of the cans for dust. So I just dusted the outside edge. And he comes up, Hodges was standing by for your inspection, sir. And he goes, well, you ready? And I said, I hope so. I said, because you're the only thing between me and a beer. So he said, well, let's see. And he was just a little ensign, newbie. And so he was shaking his head like, I said, yeah, I got this. Then he said, what about the top of the cans? I said, they're clean. And so I reached up. I'm 6'4", and I reached up, pulled my hand down. He goes, what about the middle? And
you heard that trick before, huh?
Yeah, I went, uh-oh. He goes, give me a leg up. I said, man, I ain't giving you no damn leg up. If you won't, crawl up there. He said, I'm telling you to give me a leg up. And I said, I'm telling you to go to hell. And the thing about a combat sailor and a fleet sailor, combat sailor wasn't real spit and shine, and didn't take a lot of crap. So he goes, give me your ID. No, where is your ID? And I said, it's in my pocket. He says, give it to me. And I went, no. And he says, I'm ordering you to give it to me. And I said, I'm telling you, go to hell. You ain't getting it. Because they take your ID, they got you. And he reached for it. When he did, I hit him. And of course, the MPs come and got me. And I had to go to Captain's Mast. And I remember at the Captain's Mast, it was a summary court martial. And the captain and Navy captain in charge of it, of the hearing, looked at me, and he said, he knew me. And he says, Red, he goes, I would have probably done the same damn thing. He says, but it says right here in the book, Uniform Code of Military Justice. He says, thou shalt not strike an officer. If you do, you pay. And he said, so they call it awarding you. As a court martial may direct, I award you what I got, 15 days hard labor, 30 days correctional custody. And I wasn't going to hit another one.
It worked.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was tough stuff.
You mentioned your swim buddy.
Mm-hmm.
So did everybody get paired up?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And so teamwork makes the dream work.
That's right.
I can only imagine back then. What were do you remember some of the teamwork concepts? Some of the things that were critical?
Well, everything you did was in tandem.
Right.
I mean, I can't remember any particular thing, but even in a firefight, you're always wondering where your buddy's at.
So everywhere you went,
he was side by side,
right there.
Yeah, and then the whole team were swim buddies. I guess you could say, but you usually worked in pairs.
In pairs.
Yeah.
When you got out of combat, maybe when you came back to the States, is that something that you think you missed?
Oh yeah,
having that buddy.
Oh yeah. I mean, you didn't go pee without him.
I can't imagine.
You were very close, very close, and your whole team was. That you've heard this, no one left behind.
Right.
I mean, you'd die before you left him there. So, yeah, it's and I guess I don't know about today, but even in the Army and Marines, you all have that camaraderie, but I don't think it's as close as it is in the teams as we were. That
were you able to stay together in contact? And
yeah, for years and years.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, my team used to get together every year, like I guess 5 years ago. They all went back to Da Nang. I didn't go. I told them, been there, done that, got the T-shirt. I have no desire to go back. But most of those guys have died off. And then my swim buddy, we used to stay in contact, but over the years, we just drifted apart.
Right.
And I hadn't heard from him in 6 or 7 years, 8 years. But
as far as you know, he's still around.
Oh yeah, but he was a big part of my life. He was one of the funniest guys I ever met. Like I say,
that probably came in handy.
Oh yeah, he was like I say, from West Union, West Virginia, and never been out of the county until he got in the military.
They made it, I guess, for me growing up. They often politicized the war, whether it was TV or film, and it made it the image of coming back. Right,
it was tough.
You know, they made it sound like you weren't welcome, and in some instances.
Look, when I landed in Memphis, I came home on combat convalescent leave, and of course my buddies met me at the airport, and I had my uniform on, and we hadn't got out of the airport good, and we're already being heckled. As a matter of fact, we actually got in a fight for some statements some people made. I remember one of my buddies just slapped the crap out of one guy. And I don't remember. He said something, "Oh, you're proud of that, aren't you?"
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it wasn't a nice homecoming. And that kind of hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, I went there for all the right reasons. Number one, I didn't have an option. Number two, you believe in the United States, and this is what our government said we needed to do to slow up communism. And so I did.
Right.
And the crazy thing about it is when the politics got into Vietnam, if the politicians would have stayed out, we would have won that war. And if you talk to a Marine or a SEAL, we didn't lose, we just quit.
Right.
And like in Vietnam, Vietnam was broken up into grids, like little squares. And this square or this grid would maybe a free fire zone. So if you go into it, they wanted you to kill everything right down to the chickens. Right next to it, you had a zone where you couldn't kill nobody. You could just recon it, but you better not kill nobody, or you'd end up like, in My Lai, where I don't know if you know much about that, but that Lieutenant Calley, when they went in, their orders were to sanitize the place, and they did. And he walked up to Captain Medina and says, and Calley was so gung-ho. I mean, he was a little overboard, but that's what it took, I guess. And he went up to Captain Medina and says, "Well, Captain, do you think we did a good job?" He says, "Lieutenant, you did such a good job. Me and you're going to spend the next 30 years in prison."
He was in the wrong zone.
Well, the problem was they let the media go with them. And that was a good thing about our bosses, that the higher ups would say, "We're going to send, I can't remember, the UP or United Press or somebody wants to go on an operation with you." And of course, then my boss says, "Well, can you jump out of an airplane?" "Well, no, but can't we get a mission and let him walk in with them?" And he says, "We're jumping." And he always made sure there was a reason,
right,
that they couldn't go. And he would explain to them, we work off the buddy system. So who is your sound man, your buddy system? He said, because we're not going to drag you around. I said, when the shooting starts, you own your own. And we never had a problem with them wanting to go.
I can imagine.
That
can't imagine anybody would want to go.
Some of them fools, you know. And then the politicians, they made it so tough that I remember we were at Da Nang and some senators or somebody was laying in, so they had us stand out on the flight line. They wanted a combat group standing out there, so we were available, so they sent us out there. And I never will forget, you know, they were coming down, these senators were coming down the line, shaking our hands and says, well, where are you from, son? Tennessee. Oh, yeah, you know. He says, and what is your job? And I said, you know, because they knew each one of us had a specialty. And they get to Hoss, and he loved his job. And Hoss shook his hand. He says, and what is your job, soldier? And he says, killing and business is good. Senator took off. He heard all he wanted to hear.
That was it. Right there.
Yeah.
About as real as it gets.
Yeah. And you know, I don't know if I should be telling this, but they had a program called the Phoenix Program. And the Phoenix Program was designed to neutralize anybody in country that was opposed to the war. And that could be a senator, a congressman. I never participated in it, but I know guys that did. And I can't think of anybody they actually killed, but I know the program was there. And you know, those are the tough things when, you know, there's an old saying in the military, I'm not to question why, I'm to do and die.
Right.
And you do what you're told. And you know, you're programmed that way.
Right.
That, you know, you it's afterwards where you after the adrenaline comes down and you
right.
You get the shakes and tough times.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially coming back to that type of atmosphere.
Yeah. It.
So what? 22 years old.
Yeah.
It's
shot my first person. I was 22 years old.
Oh, I can't imagine what that experience coming back would shape you as the man you are to be.
Yeah, you know, just the love of a wife and the grace of God. They were some tough days that, you know, my first year back, I drank a lot, stayed in trouble. If I didn't go to jail on a Friday or Saturday night, I didn't think I went nowhere. And I remember I got in some serious trouble. A cop had pulled me over, me and a buddy of mine, and we were drinking. And he was being a bit of a smart ass. And I'd rolled down my window a little bit, and he says, get out of the car. And I said, screw you. And I drove off, left him standing in the street. Well, the next thing I know, there were like 4 cars around us screaming, get out of the car. And they had the big sticks. And I looked over at my buddy, Scotty. I said, you want to get out and kick their ass? Yeah, let's go. So we bailed out, and the fight was on. And I finally got a stick away from one of them, and I clobbered him. I mean, I was all over him. And make a long story short, I said I wasn't going to go to jail, but I was wrong. There were too many of them. And I know we had to go to court the next morning. This is on a Saturday morning. And the judge is dead now, Judge Beverly Boucher, great guy. And he said, Mr. Hodges, this ain't your first trip in court, is it? I went, no, Your Honor. And he said, I think they're picking on you. I said, thank you.
That is classic.
Yeah. And I was all bad. They broke my ribs, broke my nose. I was all messed up. And then a lot of the cops sitting there were all in bandages. And so he said, well, Mr. Hodges, you got a decision to make. And the Navy from Millington sent 2 JAG officers to represent me. And I don't know who called them, but they showed up in court. And the judge says, well, Mr. Hodges, you got a decision to make. He says, you can do 11 months, 29 days at the penal farm, or you can check yourself in the VA hospital. And I went, well, that's a no-brainer. I'm going to the hospital. Well, I turned to walk, and no, we're going to get you a ride over there. But the JAG officers, they were great. They told the judge, look, we made him. We can fix him. Just let us have him. Don't send him to jail. And Boucher says, you're right.
Sounds like a good thing to do.
Oh, yeah. And then that just created more problems. They sent me to a psych class. There was a group of us in the Army, Navy, and everybody. You went there every morning. You had your little pajamas on. And you go in every morning, and the psychiatrist will come in and talk to you. But there was a guy in the Army comes in. Every morning he was crying. I can't take this no more. I want to die. And one morning he come in, and I go, you know what? I want you to die. I can't take this no more. Man, I ain't kidding. I'm going to kill myself. I said, well, do it. And I said, come here. We was on the 3rd floor. And I went over and raised the window, and I went, jump. I'll do it, man. I'll do it. I said, well, you got to get on up here. And I said, I can't push you out the window, but I can sure coach you. Come on a little closer, bend at the waist, get up on your toes, and it's over with. You're dead. Well, about that time, the shrink comes in, and he hollered, what are you doing? Some guy says, teaching him to jump. I didn't have to go back to that class. I mop floors.
Yeah.
And then I was mopping floors, and I was at the front, and there was a 7-Eleven straight across the street at the time. I said, man, I'd die for a beer and cigarette. And they had a guard with me. And I'm mopping. I said, if he turns his head, I'm gone. So he did. I took off out the door, and I had, the hospital garb on, and I run across the street, and there was a guy getting out of a pickup. And I said, hey, man, you got a cigarette? He went, yeah. And I said, they got me tied up over in this darn hospital. And he gives me a couple of cigarettes. I said, will you buy me a beer? Yeah. He goes in and buys me a beer. So I'm sitting on the curb drinking a beer, smoking a cigarette. All the guys in the white suits are running around. And then they holler, there he is, right there.
They're looking for you.
Yeah. And they got me. So then they put me in a group where we had to go around. I call it the blue hair meetings, these garden clubs, and talk about being in Vietnam, what we were doing to get well. And I had to do that. And they told me then, you mess up one more time and you're going to Iceland, Greenland. And you could put me on a recruiting poster. I didn't want no more of it. And I had to do that for, I guess, about 6 months.
Wow.
Then they let me out.
Let you go.
Said I was well. I don't know if you ever get well.
Well, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, you can't erase your memory. I mean, I guess you could. You tried maybe every now and then. Friday and Saturday nights.
Brian can tell you that I had a rule when the boys would be out at night, when they come in, they had to let me know they're home. Well, I guess it was you that walked up to the bed one night and tapped me or something. I come tearing out of that bed, had him by the throat. So we didn't do that. We had a pillow they'd throw. So, and now I'm 75 and I hadn't had a real bad dream in a while, but all the movies they make, and I don't watch them. I watched a little bit of one, Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
And that's probably the most realistic. I didn't watch all of it. But
I think my generation grew up on that movie.
Yeah. Well, it was a pretty realistic movie. But I just, Brian will tell you, I just can't watch them. I get the sweats and the shakes, and
it's too real. It's like,
I don't want to.
You were in the movie.
I don't want to live that again.
Right.
That you do what you have to do, and I remember one of the toughest things I had was I was in a Sunday school class, and some come up about thou shalt not kill, and all these little yippies were beating up on it pretty good. And I made the statement, says everybody can kill. You just got to be put in the right situation. Oh, no. And I said, well, let me tell you something. I have. And I'm not proud of it, but if called on, I'd do it again. And he goes, I can't remember what all he said, but I remember my poor wife. I stood up. I said, I'll tell you what all you can do. Go to hell. I said, the only reason you can sit here and say the things you're saying is people like me. And I never went back.
Yeah.
That it's crazy how some people view it. I mean, but you know, it wasn't a pretty war.
No, not at all.
But I don't guess any war is.
No.
So, but the way they treated the vet and still treat the vet is to me is just terrible, absolutely terrible. So,
well, hopefully that's there's some changes that can be made.
Well, you know, when Trump's first term in office, he was getting a lot of good things done. They were getting rid of the dead weight, and most of the people at the VA, 95% of them are there because they want to be there, and they're good. It's all the politics and procedures, paperwork.
Yeah. The bureaucracy gets in the way of getting the treatment.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. So, but you got to work through it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that'll get better.
I don't think I'll live to see it, but hopefully for the next bunch it will be.
So, what year did you meet your wife?
73.
73.
I've known my wife since the third grade.
Oh, okay.
We actually,
there's a bit of a story there.
Oh yeah, we were actually in the third grade together. Went through high school. I think I dated her one time in high school, and she went out with me one time, never went again. And then I went in the service and got out, and I was at a party at somewhere, and she was there, and we kind of hooked up. And you know, the funny thing about it, my wife asked me to marry her.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic.
And I remember, is there a party involved?
She probably saw a problem that needed to be solved.
Yeah, well, you know, I think she still thinks I'm a work in progress.
Right.
So, you know, that's all wives.
Right.
I can fix this.
Yeah.
That and we've been married 53 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. How many children do you have?
3. I got a daughter and 2 boys, 7 grandkids.
Wow. Congratulations.
And blessed with all of them. I tell everybody all the time, I lived my whole life to be a grandfather.
Oh,
there's nothing better.
That's awesome.
There's nothing better. The only thing is that the older they get, the less you can fool them.
They get wiser.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, I used to tell them all sorts of kind of crap, but now they'll Google it and go, Papa, that's not true. That's not true.
They call your bluff.
Yeah. So
what do you like to do for fun?
I got a little farm I hang out on.
Wonderful.
That piddle around on. That's really about it. I
hang out with nature.
Yeah. I hunt. And then we grow. We have food plots for deer and the turkey and stuff like it. Just hang out in the woods.
Hang out in the woods.
Yeah.
Any grandkids get into that?
Oh yeah. They all used to, but now, you know, most of them are in college, and I got 2 younger ones. I got grandkids from 5 to 26.
Wow.
So, and the 2 younger ones, the 10 and 5-year-old, they're just really getting into it. And we ride the 4-wheelers, and they like to get in the mud. It's my one that's 10 years old, Coleman. He'll say, Papa, let's go to the farm. And I said, well, let me check with your dad. He goes, no, don't check with Dad. He said, I love Dad, but I don't want him to go. And I go, why? He goes, well, he's too bossy.
I love it.
You know, we get into it. I just let him go.
That's it.
Yeah, I'll say something to him. He goes, Papa, I got this. I said, all right, let's go. So,
what was your rank, by the way? I guess we should have got that out of the way in the beginning.
The most I ever got was E5.
Okay. Explain to people what E5 means.
It's like a sergeant.
Okay.
And then when I got out, I was an E2. Guys coming out of boot camp had more stripes than I did.
So you were going the wrong way.
Yeah. I know when me and my swim buddy were stationed in Bremerton, Washington, that I'd say, Nick, what do you want to do this weekend? He goes, I don't know, man. Let's go to Canada. All right. We just leave and go over the hill. And you had to be back within 30 days or they get you for desertion. But we were never gone over 8 or 9 days.
Okay.
And never had no money. And I remember one time, I don't know where we were going in California, up around San Francisco somewhere. And we run out of money. So we got us a job at this turkey processing plant. So we'll make enough money here to get us a ticket home. Well, we didn't know it, but they had scalpers who, if they found out you're in the military, they'd turn you in and they'd make $50. And I'm sitting there hanging live turkeys on this line and look out and see 2 Marine MPs coming up. And I went, thank God, my ride home. and
you went from E5 to E4 that day.
Yeah. Well, the good thing about it, that the key was try and keep enough stripes so when you went to court martial, you had something to give up. They'd bust you and then they would just restrict you. But if you didn't have nothing, you'd end up in jail. So I made E5 2 or 3 times. And there are a couple of times there was a 30-day waiting period after you were promoted before you show your stripes on. A lot of times I never made the 30 days. They done got them back. I remember there at the last, you take an E2, which is a private, was $80 every 2 weeks. That was it. But you got to figure your food and housing, it was all drink.
Right.
So yeah, I've I remember my daughter's been helping me with this, and she called me one day, and this lady she's working with who had enough rank in the VA that got through some of the redactions, and her and Tina were reading it, and she called me and goes, Dad, I can't believe the stuff I read. She never told me what she saw.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I think she was a little shocked. But
what's the so redactions? I guess that's like taking. If it was me, I guess that'd be like taking my resume and black and just it's all black.
Right.
Without stating the obvious, I guess. What's the reason? Now there's going to be secret missions and things that. But yeah. Isn't there like? So go ahead.
Well, some of it, like I found out, and I've just found this out, that some of it was redacted for 17 years, and they've released some of that. And I think that's what Tina, my daughter, saw. But then there's some that they keep redacted for 60 years.
For 60 years.
Yeah. And I guess it has
to make sure everybody's gone.
Yeah. And those secrets wouldn't hurt anything anymore.
Right,
I mean,
right. Because that's 17 and 60, 77 years.
Yeah.
And if you're 22, yeah, they're pretty much making sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and that's where we're at now. And I'm trying to get someone to look into the record to prove what I did and where I was at. They've gotten my service records so screwed up. I mean, it's.
Wow, where are your service records?
Well, this is what I was told. That at one time they were all stored in St. Louis.
Okay.
And then they had a fire, and they told me half of my records was lost in the fire, and the other half they lost. Well, now they've moved some years ago, they moved all the records to
computers.
Yeah, to Millington.
To Millington,
mm-hmm,
here in Tennessee.
Now they're trying to find my records. That if you look at my records right now, it says nothing about me being a SEAL. Says nothing about a lot of the training I had. So we're trying, and I'm hoping that's been redacted for whatever reason. I'll never know. But it's been a real problem.
So when you say file, we're sitting here in 2025. You're talking about a paper file.
Yeah.
So it's not like they copied them into.
I think they put it on
cloud.
fish tape or something like that.
Okay.
And there's a form. It's called a DD-214, and on that one sheet of paper tells everywhere you've been, everything you did,
Okay.
and all the training you had. Well, a lot of it was omitted off of my DD-214. So I'm trying to get that fixed. So,
and that's not easy.
No, especially when no one's interested. They figure they got bigger fish to fry, and I'm 75 years old. I'll be dead in 2 years. So what the hell?
So it's not like you can just go up to Millington, walk in and knock on somebody's door and say, I'd like to see my file.
No.
Wow.
But see, that's the reason I'm having to go before this judge to get him to prove someone in the VA to look at it. I can't go look at it, but they can, and then they can sign off on it. But the real kicker to all this is like when you file for Agent Orange and they approve or disapprove. Well, the person that's looking at that is not even a medical doctor. They, I don't know how they're qualified.
Interesting.
And maybe that day they say, I'm not going to prove nothing today. And then, they kick it back, and then you have to go through all this paperwork again. And like I say, I'm 7 years into it now.
7 years into trying to get your file.
Right. Well, trying to get my disability.
And your disability.
And, it's really right now, my disability ain't so much for me as it is my wife. Because when I'm gone, she can get it. And you take in the state of Mississippi, when you get to 70%, I only got 10%, but when you get to 70%, have to pay for your tags, card tags. There's a lot of benefits.
Property taxes.
Yeah, a lot of benefits come with it. And so it's more for my wife than I guess it is for me. Of course, it would help me right now too, but I don't have a lot of faith.
Wow.
That, but I have no regrets. Military.
Yep.
And I would do it again.
Yeah.
When you're in combat, it's not mom, apple pie, and Old Glory. It's your ass.
Right.
And in the process, you do all the other.
Right.
So, it was an experience.
Well, I thank you for your service.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. This is amazing. I mean, I feel like we just talked through all of the movies I've ever watched in my life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and and you can't really talk about a lot of what went on. And I certainly hope you get through your VA situation.
I do too. Maybe I will. We'll see.
Oh, there's got to. Are there advocates out there that help and assist veterans with these things?
I've called on everything I know
that they can think of.
Yeah, that it's just a bureaucracy.
Right.
That.
Well, hopefully, if there's a listener out there that knows of an advocate could then help with the situation, we can maybe reach out.
Well, I've got a guy with the VA in Jackson. I went before this judge before, and I didn't know you had to have a representative. And the judge was great. And he says, "Who's your representative?" I said, "Man, I ain't got no representative."
Like state representative?
No,
or
he's
legal?
the legal.
Okay.
And he says, I says, "What I need a representative for?" He says, "Well, he has to ask the questions, and then I can rule on them."
Oh, okay.
And he says, "Or you can do it." I said, "Hell, I don't know what questions to ask." And he said, "Well, you may want to reschedule this, or I can hear it now, but you only get one shot at this." And I said, "Well, what do you recommend?" He goes, "I can't recommend nothing. I can rule on anything you say, but I can't recommend nothing or nobody." But the way he was talking, he says, "We need to reschedule this. You need to find somebody to."
He was recommending.
Yeah. He was a great guy.
Great guy.
So he rescheduled it. But you take, it's taken, after the first hearing, it's taken almost 3 months to get the second hearing.
Right.
I mean, they get no rush. And again, I could be wrong, but I think it's like the insurance company. You know, they deny you 3 times normally before they ever approve anything.
Right.
And in this case, I think they try to outlast you. And you know,
I hope you're wrong.
I'm at the point in my life.
It feels that way, though.
Yeah, you know, it's at 75 years old.
Yeah, you're not buying green bananas.
No, that I've got 100 different things wrong with me, and we need to get this done and over with. Yeah. And maybe we will. I don't have a lot of faith in it, but I can go to my grave knowing I did my part.
Yeah.
You son of a bitches hadn't.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
All right. Well, best of luck to you.
I appreciate that.
Well, thank you for coming on and chatting. I know you got your son next to you, Brian.
Yeah.
One of your boys.
Yeah.
I'm sure this has been fun, Brian.
Absolutely. I guess I've spent more time with Brian talking about, you know, Vietnam than any of my kids. He's always seemed to be more interested.
Yeah.
That we share a lot. I share a lot with him.
Well, I could see you guys are spitting images. You're going to look just like your dad.
Yeah. He's my shoulder.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to say goodbye to our audience, and thanks again. This has been special. Very special.
All right. Thanks.